Well, welcome to episode 10 in season 3 of C.A.R.s Coffee and Christ, the weekly podcast of our team at Automotive Royale here in Mounds, Oklahoma. We're podcasting here today from a different location, but similar cast of characters here today. So we're going to be talking about something that's near and dear to our heart, C.A.R.s From Christ Foundation, particularly today, and talking a little bit about the story of this nonprofit that we've started that interweaves also with C.A.R. itself and kind of originates from it. But at the present moment, I thought, why this conversation? I think because there's a lot of need when it comes to vehicles and families. And we think about inflation that we have right now. It's still a threat. It's been a threat for a while now. Wages, staying the same. People's need for vehicles remains high, but the soaring cost of them continues. So what happens often is that people are left without a car and they have the same need and their jobs don't stop, but the reality is they can't afford it. So we live in a place today where there's a lot of families that are barely getting by with vehicles that are in disrepair, that are unreliable, and that need someone to step in to fill the gap. And this is kind of where the heart comes from for C.A.R.s From Christ Foundation, which is what we want to talk about today. So I have one of our board members. I'm the president of the board for C.A.R.s From Christ. Joshua King is with me today. He's also one of the board members for C.A.R.s From Christ Foundation and also the co-owner and co-founder of C.A.R. as well. So we're going to talk about this, Joshua, today. And I thought the best way to start would simply be, where did it begin in your and Abigail's heart to do something like this? Because it's always been there for, I think, some period of time, but it's grown into this established foundation. Mm-hmm. So where did it start for you and Abigail? Kind of take me back into that story. And I think our listeners would love to hear kind of where all this comes from.
Yeah, so thanks, Ross. And I think he said it well in the beginning. There's two things. Myself and Abigail spent a lot of time with the homeless population here in the city, just serving at one of our local nonprofits, getting to know their story, getting to know their struggle of the homeless population, which is exploding and booming in Tulsa, probably all around America right now, for the very reasons that you're talking about, the economic challenges, things are getting more expensive, people are not getting paid more, and when hard times come, and then the rise of drug use, all of that coming together, challenging families, challenging individuals. But one of the things I learned is that in that process, a car is not just kind of a right to entry for a job in our city. We're not a city with a subway system or a robust bus system. We do have a bus system, but those things are expensive and often barriers of entry to a job for a homeless population, as well as just regular families. It's not just the homeless population, just the working class is now falling into this in and out of incredible burden with vehicles. And there are major needs for individuals, and you don't often think of the car as a need, as a fundamental need, but in modern society it is. It's kind of a required barrier to entry, and for some families it's actually a home. And that's what we've learned, especially with the homeless population, is there's a level before you're on the street in the 10 cities that normally involve your own car, as long as it's functional, having air conditioning in that vehicle in hard times that can save lives. Heaters in the winter saves lives. It's really, really important. And so from that lens and learning these things and just having a heart for that population, I really felt it as I began to go into C.A.R.s is I felt like the Lord was essentially saying, I need you to help meet a core need. And that core need, C.A.R. really began to be a facilitation of revenue so that we can meet the need. I also saw a lot of nonprofits, a lot of goodwill organizations, a lot of Christian just companies and organizations that rely too much on goodwill. And when times get bad and when seasons come where small wins of political change can totally dry up churches or nonprofits or other organizations that rely on goodwill alone. A tax change in America could change how goodwill flows into the church. And so the fundamental need to have a good or service that you provide to the public that is valuable and builds community and in itself is good is better when it can act in what I would call like a waterfall of economics, where you can move from a place of high abundance into a place of great need. And establishing the two together allows us to do that. Now, we can't do it alone. I mean, nonprofits cannot exist for a company to flow into another due to tax laws. However, with a community around this concept and around also wanting to see the need and individuals wanting to give of their vehicles, it allowed us two places to start. One of those was our car care clinics, where we just, hey, some people don't need a handout of a vehicle. They just need their vehicle working. And there's a lot of limiters on churches and what they can provide in their parking lots, where they have their own car care clinics, where they're, a great mechanic or a member will come out and just help people with some of the foundational things. But there's a lot of things, like we did a transmission on a Cherokee that cannot be done in a parking lot. But we were able to do it for one of our church partners members, and being able to love people in that way, and it has been great. And that's what we've been doing for the number of past months. But in talking to a lot of other individuals, there's this other thing that pops up where you've got, and it's happened for me, is you have a vehicle that you go to trade in, and that they're giving you nothing for it at the dealership. And so you come to this crossroads, like, man, am I just going to give this car away? Well, why not give that car away? But actually, don't give it to the dealership. Give it to someone in need. And, you're giving away a vehicle at pennies on the dollar. It's not what it's worth. It's what the market says it's worth. To a family, it's life-changing. To that dealership, it's it's nothing, $1,000, and they'll make a little bit on it. And then even just move it to auction, and make, $400 on it. Take one extra step and partner with organizations like ourselves that can take that car in as a donation. You get a tax write-off, and all of a sudden we can funnel that into the poor of the city. And my hope is not to just give it to some random person, but give it to those who are showing the work that they want to get back on their feet again and need this car as a tool in re-entry into society and to work. And that's really what we're building here with C.A.R.s From Christ. That's why we needed a nonprofit and a foundation to begin that work and to be able to solidify it for both the community and for our church partnerships that we're really, really proud to be a part of.
Joshua, that's really awesome to hear the story, kind of the inception of it, to now the establishment of this foundation. And it's happened very recently for us, but the heart's always been there. But it's the vehicle we need literally for vehicles. It's really what we have to have. And I think it's also exciting, like you said, that, and we'll talk about this a little bit toward the end, about how ministry it's so essential that it's a partner kind of mentality, from churches to nonprofits to individuals. And I'll share a brief story of myself in my own experience about car neediness in a way. And my family, when this is about 8 or 9 years ago, my family was growing and became a family of 4. And I work in ministry. It's not charity, but it's still ministry. And the reality is you earn just enough to try to get by. And we did not have enough money for another vehicle. In fact, the vehicle I had gotten so close to breaking down, it wasn't worth the trade-in. Yet one of my students in the ministry I had bought it for me for $500. If I remember correctly, then he immediately got it stolen, which was strange. But I remember not having another working vehicle, and my family being 4, and a person in our church gave us the car that the church was loaning out, gave it to us, donated it to us so that we could have a vehicle, was just out of nowhere. And that was such a blessing to my family. Though we could barely fit in it, we used it for 3 years, and it was a huge blessing. Then we traded it in to get our van that we had now, thankfully, still with people, I think, donated some money to us to do that, if I remember correctly. And then in our last church that we had, both our vehicles were breaking down, and we were driving an hour a day to my job because it was a rural community. And I remember we really had no way of making it. Was starting to become so difficult that I couldn't get to work. It was so hard. And same thing for my wife. And we had a generous friend in our church donate a very nice vehicle, not a working, like a very nice vehicle to us. And that's the only way we were able to continue, and now we're able to get to our jobs and whatnot now. So I'm a very strong advocate, because I've benefited from this 3 times myself, because people are so generous in those contexts that want to do this. And I think it leads me to the question of knowing that there are so many people that want to fill this need. Again, I didn't request it but one time, and then the person that wanted to give me that vehicle was like, that's way too nice of a vehicle for what I'm asking here. But there are a lot of people that want to fill this need that's so big. So how would we direct people in congregations, believer on unbeliever, whatever it is, in church, outside the church, to kind of partnering with the foundation. How could they become a part of that? And how would you direct them, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. One, the easiest thing, there's kind of two avenues, right? And for some people, you have a vehicle and you're in that portion of your life where you are trading it in. And if you go, a lot of people need that vehicle to get the next vehicle, and that's not really who I'm talking to. There's a point at which your car becomes almost nothing. And at that point, when you're faced with that trade-in decision, we'd ask that you maybe reconsider it and consider giving it and gifting it, which is exactly what happened to me. So this first, story was, we had a truck that we got to go adventure at national parks. It was our first iteration of doing that. We threw everything in the back. We didn't know what we were doing. We're going out doing this, and we upgraded it. We removed all the problems. We got it to be reliable, and bought it for a reasonable price. But by the time we traded it in, they gave us barely over $1,000 for the vehicle. Scrapyard costs are $500. Like, we're getting almost nothing for this vehicle. And I thought at the time, there's such a better use for this. At the time, the Lord had told another friend of mine to sell his truck, and he was a firefighter, and he was a public servant, first responder, awesome human being. And his family was in need of a truck. And so I took my truck and I gave it to him. And the Lord provided us with our new vehicles at the time. And that was the first time I had ever experienced doing that. And it made so much sense to me. And it unlocked something in my mind. Like, there's a better option here. We just kind of follow into the modes of what society tells us to do. But hey, there's like another thing we could do. And, I knew a family at the time, maybe you know a family. I'd encourage you just to give directly if you want to. You don't always need a tax write-off. But one way we allow people to do that is because we're a 501c3, we can actually get that donation, and you can take it as a tax deduction, and we'll give you fair market value on that deduction form, which is actually more probably than you would receive for the vehicle itself and the trade-ins that you would have a trade-in value. So that would be like if you sold it yourself, right? And you're giving it away yourself to our organization. And so that is one way, is donate it and see that return in your tax fund and bless a family in need. We then take that vehicle and we put it on our lot. We have a lot of space at our lot. It's ample space to take in as many donations as people want to provide. We can pull that in. And then when we have time with our team, what we do is we go through every vehicle and we make sure that they are family safe. So we make sure that it is a reliable vehicle. We do the tune-up. We do the basic checks. We do all the point checks to make sure that vehicle is ready to go to the next vehicle. And if it's not, we'll do the repairs in our normal car clinics, which we already have established. Once that car is ready for a family, we then go to our partner over in a local homeless organization that is really well established. They have a graduating class where they spend 6 to 18 months walking these individuals from a state of homelessness out of states of addiction back into the workforce. And when they're ready, their graduates need a vehicle. There's great partners they have to get them jobs, but they also need a vehicle. And up until now, there's been some donations that go in there, but it's really falling on one mechanic to just kind of check it out to see if they can even receive it. There's a lot of vehicles that don't even make it to them because they're not suitable for repair or whatever. So we take that vehicle, we take care of that vehicle, we transfer that vehicle to an organization that absolutely has need. Every year they're graduating 18 graduates. We have a plenty of need. And we believe in the city of Tulsa, there's plenty of generosity. And whether you're in the city of Tulsa or you're somewhere else and you want to partner with us, we're super happy to receive the vehicle. We're super happy to reallocate that vehicle and get it to a place where it is needed. And so continually, our hope and our goal is to eventually get everyone in that graduating class continually C.A.R.s. And so then all of them can know that when I'm going through this program, I have a job, I have a vehicle, and I have a start. And that is such a powerful thing to do for people who are ready to change their lives. If that's how if I was in that situation, and we're one bad situation away from being in the same place that they are in. And I would love if someone did that for me. It's essentially a way out. And that is what I want to provide to the city of Tulsa. I want to provide to that community, but we can't do that alone. That is through the generous hearts of people who make a different decision. So that's the first way. The second way is direct donation. Financial contribution allows us to do something different. What we've done is partnered with a rather large and local dealership that we have an agreement to buy those vehicles from them, and they oftentimes have vehicles that they can't even sell that they're about to go to a scrapyard. And so our offer to them was, hey, instead of scrapping that vehicle, if it's suitable for a family, let us take it on. Let us fix that vehicle. I know it's a total loss to you, but to us, that's an opportunity for a family. It's
valuable.
And we'll take that money and we'll put it directly into that. That's why C.A.R. and C.A.R.s From Christ are completely separate financially. Yep. So every gift you make into C.A.R.s From Christ goes directly to vehicles or the supporting staff that runs C.A.R.s From Christ. Yep. And it allows us, or the parts for that vehicle, or the ability to actually repair that, all of it goes directly to the mission. And that's really, really powerful. Yeah. And so we can take that money, we can go purchase a vehicle, we can purchase the parts, and we can do the same thing. So whether that is a purchase vehicle that we purchase on your behalf, or that's a vehicle that you're ready to contribute directly to the mission, that's exactly what we're trying to do. And that provides a couple of different avenues, because some people just love what we're doing and want to be a part of it, and they can be financial partners, or whether that's an individual that is at a life decision and just that wants to do something better with that car that still has a lot of life in it for another family. It can change lives, and it's really super important for families that need it.
Josh, that's so encouraging to hear, kind of, again, the ways that the foundation can support the needs, but also kind of filter those needs into something that just makes sense. I like how you said it, because I think that's the challenge, is that the society that we live in, it's typically tailored to, let's just scrap this, get a few dollars from this and move on, when really there's a huge blessing there that can be immediately transferable and helpful for people that's just right there. And again, it's almost a common sense thing that we're asking for here. But again, it's better to bless you that you'll get more fair market value on it. I mean, I've traded in cars multiple times. You're getting nothing for it. I mean, again, totally. so this is more of a common sense decision. It's also a major blessing. I just got back from a mission trip in town, where our church goes to several homeless locations or housed locations that are one thing away from being homeless again. Basically EEOE housing, and almost none of those people have vehicles. Zilch, and everyone's walking. Everyone's on a bike. All those people need vehicles to get something sustainable so they don't lose their housing. And these people are in the best situation in the homeless community. There is housing for them, but almost none of them have vehicles. Some of them come out of those programs that you were talking about. But again, how much better of a place would they be if they had a vehicle from the start? I think here, and that's what I think we're trying to meet the need, because it's a huge situation. Homelessness is not one symptom, it's an epidemic of many things. And again, this is one way to combat that, but it's a significant way.
I'll share a story of at dinner with a homeless man one time, and he began teaching me about the challenge of transportation. And one of the things he described is, he said, just imagine yourself, you're coming from a shelter, and maybe you got a shower, maybe you didn't, depending on the logistics of the facility. And you're trying to keep a job at, let's just say, McDonald's or another facility, another place. And that job is 2 miles away. And then you have to locate yourself to that job without, being sweaty, showing up presentable, showing up hygienic for the individuals, and then make your way back for dinner so that you can be at that facility for that evening and get a seat to sleep that night. Otherwise, you're outside and you're still trying to keep that job. Right. The logistical challenge between there, and sometimes that's across the city because of the logistics of where the city has provided the shelter and where your job actually functionally would be. Yeah. And bus systems are expensive, and oftentimes there's not enough money for them to even begin that process. We too quickly try to marginalize and call people lazy that are in that community. Right. But the story this man told was not his fault. And he was in a situation that he was trying to navigate to the best of his knowledge. And I was just shocked at the hope of this man in that situation. And I thought to myself, we've got to do better. Yep. We've got to think better. We've got to think strategically to help solve these problems. And I do believe that it is our responsibility, both as a church and as a people, because I believe that the measure of evil in a city is the distance between the poor and the rich. Yeah. The closer they are together, but the bigger the gap is a direct measure of the evilness of that city. And I will not have Tulsa be an evil city. And so we hope that we can help solve these problems through creative means, common sense means, repurposing, reallocating, and through organizations like ourselves to make sure that we're taking steps to love those that are coming upon hard times, whether that is drug addiction, or whether that is how they were raised, or whether that is their economic or socio status, or whether that is a hard time that came upon them. Regardless of what that is, I still feel like there's a responsibility from a place of abundance to love those that are in need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a complex problem that takes a complex solution, and I think that's why it shows that the solution is always partnership with like-mindedness, and to know that the solution is multifaceted. But the vehicle is one of the significant pieces of it, like you were mentioning. I mean, I've gotten to serve in this ministry that you're referencing, along with many other homeless ministries in the area, not just last week but prior, and you see the same kind of situations over and over. Is that a lot of these people they're living in the moment. They're trying to put one day at a time together, and days change. And the reality is they need some level of stability. I think part of the slogan of our foundation is giving independence. And this is super important, because if they don't have this, they're really at the beck and call of the day. And it's very challenging for them to get their footing. And so this helps give footing to them and independence to make those next steps, like you're mentioning. So I think that's really wonderful, Josh. So I thought what we'd finish on is maybe kind of a two-part, one question, two parts to it. First is, why do we believe ministry is kind of a team sport here, that we really have to approach this situation not as like, hey, we're not the only people in town trying to help here, but we're partnering with tons of other places to do this work. Why do we believe that's the best solution? Why do we believe sharing the gospel is kind of a multifaceted job of all Christians? And then really, how can people partner? What are the ways that they can join us as a partner in the foundation?
Everyone has a target and a mission.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a dealership, your job is to sell cars. Like, that's the mission. That's the service you're putting out to society,
mm-hmm.
right? Like, people need new vehicles, and they serve that community in that way. Whether we're doing the same thing at C.A.R. or someone else, they have a mission. Church's mission is to reach the lost, and it's to serve the community. Our mission is to try to move vehicles from places of waste into places of need, and to almost in a way recycle an opportunity or a decision into the hands of great need. And that's our purpose. But that the reality of that is we don't have an endless number of cars or an endless number of resources.
Yeah.
And without the generosity of the city to say, I want to do this with you and partner with us on that mission, that doesn't really happen.
Right.
But simultaneously, we don't find the need if we don't partner with churches. Yeah. We don't have access to the vehicles if we don't partner with dealerships.
Right.
We don't have a fully supply of genuine need that is to those that are ready to receive that need,
mm-hmm.
right? Because just as quickly someone on the street could take that, sell that car, and move it into drugs.
That's right.
But at the same time, if I've worked with an organization where they say, hey, this person's ready.
That's right.
They're ready for this opportunity. Then we know every single car we receive is going to great need. Mm-hmm. We know it's going into good hands, and we know that car will serve that family well. And so without those partnerships, it's just a few people with hopes and dreams and wishes. We have to put together systems that help solve problems. Yep. And those strategies and those systems have to work together in a community, and that begins to make the fabric of change for a city. And so it's just one thing that we're doing. But there's other things. There's an individual that goes around and fixes cars here in the city. Mm-hmm. Does it on YouTube. He finds people on the side of the road. He orders their parts. He gets them there. That's another person solving that part of the problem. Yeah. And as an ecosystem together, the point is that we're doing it or someone else do it, but we start to own the problem, and we start to take real action together. And as a community, we can solve this problem, just like we can solve a lot of the problems that are rising. But the ownership, this collective ownership of the problem and need, is, I think, the first step. And it's essential if you're ever going to build anything that's going to last.
Yeah. I think we're seeing it as, well, we want to be part of the solution. We know that we don't have the corner market on that, but we do believe in building a system that's really clear, like a pipeline, as we've talked about, this kind of inflow from dealerships, from people that are generous partners, individuals, local churches, donors, these things, but also the outflow is to, one, the partner with this rehabilitation vocational ministry that they've got, but also to people in churches themselves that really need a vehicle. Like, again, myself, it's happened 3 times in 10 years. I mean, there are people that just as families, they cannot afford a decent used car. And what happens is it can spiral into debt. It can cause, again, unreliability for jobs. Yeah. So again, there's kind of a large pool there, but there's little pools also that we want to serve too. But we know that we got to have strong partnerships, like you said, building an ecosystem there. So I think we could finish by simply saying, joining the partnership is as simple as signing a document saying you're with us. Mm-hmm. And it's very simple. And again, we want to establish a pipeline of ministry that makes sense. And again, not to go too far into it, but I love what you said earlier on, Josh, is that, we're just a city that doesn't have like a short rail line. We don't have public systems that are uniform across the board, that people that struggle with this can just hop a train and get to their job. Again, we don't have systems in place. So we need to make a system that's in place. Yeah. We don't have those solutions right now. So we need to make some solutions with partners that are like-minded. So I think we just want to finish by encouraging folks to consider what you could give, whether it's a vehicle, whether it's finances that we could buy vehicles with, whether it's just signing up, not knowing how you could help, but just signing on to being like-minded. We want to create an ecosystem like Joshua, you're sharing, to try to become that solution for this systemic issue, and do it, in tandem together. Is there anything? Josh,
I also think we're going to share some of these stories. As we move forward, we're going to begin kind of a series here where we're going to start to capture some of these stories, and we'll share them with us as a community, and so you can understand how these cars truly change people's lives. Or give them an opportunity for change. Yeah. And I think that that's really what I'm hoping is that we can partner with you all, partner with our church partners in the community to own the problem, build the system, and then just execute the process. Yeah. And that's our commitment, is executing that process. We have the talent and skills to execute on this. We have the partnerships in place to be able to build this. And now we just need everyone else's support in the community to begin building that pipeline of cars. Yeah. And so we can meet that pipeline of need.
That's awesome, Josh. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Josh, and sharing just the heartbeat behind it, the origin of this foundation. The opportunity to serve with you, to do it, has been fantastic. And it excites me as someone who's benefited personally multiple times from this, knowing how great of a blessing it is. Because again, we don't know how much we need it until it's very obvious. And we take for granted a lot of those things until we can't take for granted those things. So appreciate you, Joshua. Appreciate your wife, Abigail, our board, our partners that are already on board with us, but would encourage many of you, if you're interested, to go to carsfromchrist.org. That's where you can find information about the organization. You can email me, ross.turner@cross-automotive.com, to learn more about our mission and our vision and what we're about and how you can partner with us financially, also giving vehicles to us away. And there's a slogan the church has, I'll end with this, that God makes an unbeliever, someone who's far from him, which would be kind of a discarding of Satan to his treasure. And I think that's very true here, is that people discard these things all the time, maybe even as trash. It's treasure for us, and we really believe that. There's a lot of things, whether it's an immediate repair that we can get in someone's hands, or we can turn those parts into cash to buy vehicles. It's absolutely what Christ does in our lives. So I just want to encourage folks that that's really the mission of C.A.R.s From Christ Foundation. Well, thank you again, Josh. Until next time, signing off.